Well, I got to know Dr. Billy Taylor through a summer program that he did called Jazz in July up in UMass Amherst. And the teacher I was studying with at the time, Rex Cadwallader, told me about the program and told me that Dr. Taylor was teaching there, you know. And I've heard the name and I've heard, you know, I never heard his playing, but I heard the name and I heard, you know, the education that went along with him. And, you know, so I was like, all right, you know, I tried out, got in, you know, it was a 2-week program. And originally I was going to do just a week, you know, because I wanted to just test it out, see how it was going, you know. Being away from home, you know, you go up to the dorms and you stay in the dorms and you hang out with other kids and all that kind of stuff, you know. So I was like, all right, you know, I'll do that. So parents drove me up. The first day I saw Dr. Taylor in his big glasses and just, you know, and he's just sitting there and I was like, wow, all right, cool. Let's see, you know, what he's got. And, you know, and where I was playing at in New Haven, I was the youngest person playing. So, you know, being the youngest and always having the gigs, you kind of have this little chip on your shoulder, you know, kind of doing all these things. And I remember the first lesson I had with Dr. Taylor, he sat down and he played, and the sound that he got out of the piano was just so incredible that it scared me. You know, I literally, he asked if anybody wanted to play, and usually I would have been the first one, you know, I want to play. And I did not want to play, did not, because he was just, the information and the history that he had was just so incredible. You know, just from just these big chords to these small little lines and all this kind of stuff, you know, it was really incredible. So you study with your teacher throughout the week, you know, and so we're studying with Dr. Taylor, you know, it was a big master class with all the pianists of the camp, you know. And after playing, you know, with him and talking to him and really understanding who he was and, you know, where he got his teachings from, you know, it was incredible. And I didn't want to go home, you know. And then he actually asked, you know, if I could stay the next week. And so stayed the next week and then we just hit it off from there, you know. And after that, I went anywhere he went. You know, I carried his bags. You know, I went to Washington, D.C. with him. And then he also let me perform with his group as well. So, you know, I got a lot of exposure and a lot of, you know, I just learned a lot from him, just watching how he conducted with the audience. You know, it used to be amazing. I would watch him just break down the music before he would play it, you know, in a way where it wasn't just, you know, teacher and student. It just made the music just so much more understandable, especially for people that aren't musicians, you know. And he would just talk about, okay, this is by Benny Golson, and this piece includes this, and the drums are going to go to this, and then the bass is going to do this. So you kind of already knew what was going to happen before you heard it, you know. And it didn't take away from the set. It didn't take away from the music, you know. It just added some more information to it. You know, then he would play it and just would just rip on the piano and just, you know, Chip Jackson was playing bass at that time, you know, and Winard Harper, and, you know, so the trio was just cooking. I mean, every time I heard him, it was just something new, you know, and I would go with him and, you know, talk about the set list, or he would give me some music, and while he was playing, I'd read along, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of, you know, fun just being mentored by him, just to learn about the business, to learn about, you know, how to conduct yourself, you know, suits, because he was always dressing really nicely and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it was always an amazing time just to be around him. Well, he wasn't really a mentor. I mean, well,
How did that someone mention that?
probably McBride mentioned that. Hank Jones, well, I got a chance to meet Hank Jones and Barry Harris and Oscar Peterson in the same day.
Wow.
And as a pianist, it was scary. But just as somebody who just loved them, you know, it was just amazing to just hang out with them and just really to sit down with them and talk about the piano, you know, and the history of it, you know. And so I met them, I believe it was like 2006, and I was part of the Gibson Baldwin Grammy Band, you know, and they were being honored that night, you know. So they were playing with the big band, and so being the pianist of the big band, I got to move. But, you know, I'm still in the area, and so I'm watching them, and I'm like, you know, I'm just listening to them talk and just listening to them reminisce about being on the bandstand and, you know, what they used to do and, you know, the things that they wish that jazz would still do, and, you know, just really paying attention to, like, what they were talking about. And when they sit down and play, you know, it was amazing. So I remember I was playing, just sat down because Mr. Jones asked me to sit down and play something, so I played Autumn in New York. And so I was playing it, and then he interrupted me by, he kind of sat down. And so I moved over, and I started watching him, and he was playing it, and he changed the key. And I was like, all right, that's cool, because he changed. But then he started putting these other changes in, and I was like, okay, that's a little different. And then Barry Harris came over. He's like, let me show you something. So he came over, and he started doing something else. And now my mind is like, okay, oh my gosh, this is crazy. These two titans are just playing a piece that I was just playing. Now they're taking it over. And then Barry's like, okay, you have it next. I'm like, what do I do next? There's all this information, all this history right here. What am I going to do? So I came around, and this was just like in an impromptu little rehearsal kind of thing. So we were just all sitting down, and I came, Oscar Peterson wasn't there yet. So he came a little bit later. So we're just kind of going round robin and playing this tune. And, they keep changing the keys. And, at that time, I'm like, oh, man, okay, we're in B now? All right, how do I do this in B? How do I do this, Because at that time, I was trying to master just that one key, And so they've mastered that key and then some, So they're going around it, And then all of a sudden they change tempos and stuff like that. And so, I'm learning all this information. And I remember right after that, I called Dr. Taylor. And I told him about it, and he was telling me about this story that that's what pianists used to do back then. They used to just kind of hang out. I remember he tells me a story that he was hanging out, and it was him, Willie the Lion Smith, Thelonious Monk, like all these people, James P. Johnson, and they were just playing, and they just would go around just playing the same tune, but just like, okay, let me take it. Okay, now I got this over here, over this, so. Just to do that kind of thing, was really, really cool. And the fact that I got a chance to do that with Hank Jones and Barry Harris was amazing, and I will never forget that, And then later that night, I got to do that duo with Oscar Peterson. And so that whole day was just, I can die now, because that was it. That was it. This is Christian Sands, and for more videos, go to JazzTimes.com.